What is going on, folks? This is Gino with the Playmakers Corner podcast, and we've got yet another program preview episode for y'all ahead of the 2026 Women's College Flag Football season. Today, we will be looking at a potential contender for the NAIA National Championship, a team that was elite last year and has brought in even more talent, and then we will also look at two brand new programs, with both of them residing in the northeastern United States. With that all being said, let's go ahead and start things off with a potential top 5 nationally ranked team to start the season. I'm of course talking about the Milligan Buffaloes. Looking at the Milligan Buffaloes here, they finished with a 21-4 overall record in 2025, with a massive jump in wins and just overall production compared to their 2024 season. And they also finished as silver bracket champions in the 2025 NAIA Championship Tournament. The Buffaloes will be led by one of the top coaching minds in the country for the third straight year, that being head coach Ryan Witten. Witten has turned this Milligan squad into a national contender in a very short amount of time, installing an ultra-efficient no-huddle offense that has allowed the players in the system to absolutely dominate statistically. Witten is a true maestro in the art of coordinating and putting together this offense, and the no-huddle style puts a ton of pressure on opposing defenses to keep up with and just make adjustments. The Buffaloes can kill you in the short game, intermediate throws, and they are not afraid whatsoever to stretch the field deep. The 2025 PMC Coach of the Year has put together a fantastic roster with a mix of old and new faces. So there is no doubt that this squad is going to dominate much of the same here in 2026. Looking at the key games in 2025 for Milligan, they went 2-1 against a familiar foe in Campbellsville, including a 3-point loss early in the season, and then a 1-point win in their last matchup of the season right before playoffs. This is a key matchup because Campbellsville seems to always be in the mix against the Buffaloes, despite Milligan being a bit higher ranked nationally. This rivalry will be a great one to watch out for here in 2026. Next year, they also had a 20-19 loss to Weber International in their first game of the national tournament. This one hurt a ton because they really needed this win to make it to the gold bracket, especially when you throw in the fact that they had to play Ottawa in their next game. It was a massive learning experience for the Buffaloes, though, because they actually came out dominating against Weber, but Weber's veteran experience ultimately prevailed in that one, and they came back to win it in the second half. Tough losses like that one is what makes a team like Milligan a lot better and more prepared in the future. And then lastly here for the key games that we're going to be looking at from 2025, they had a 28-12 win over William Woods in the Silver Bracket Championship. Despite 2 interceptions and an injury early on, their QB Bridget Kaiser came back in a huge way in this game to finish with 4 passing touchdowns and a huge W for the program. This type of win was a testament to the toughness of that 2025 squad, and it was a great way to end an amazing season for sure. Looking at the schedule ahead of the 2026 season here for the Buffaloes, this is truly not a very tough schedule at all here for Milligan, with 15 of their games being against brand new programs. Some of these squads are set to be quite good this season, though. Squads like Wingate, Lees McRae, and Lindsey Wilson, for example. But it is still definitely a leg up to have 3 years as a squad together against some of these teams who have never played with each other before. They will still have 2 games against their rival Campbellsville, and that matchup always seems to end up being a classic. Plus, they will have a game against the ever-so-lethal Florida Gateway Timberwolves, who may have the best recruiting in the country outside of maybe Kaiser or Ottawa. That Wingate game will for sure be a great game, but outside of those I just mentioned, I don't think Milligan will have any problems with this schedule in 2026. This is a great opportunity for the Buffaloes to show some new programs what the no-huddle offense is all about and put some big points up. Now, with that being said, there are also some key departures here for the Buffaloes. Some players that did make a big impact for their 2025 season that won't be here in 2026 for one reason or another. First off here, we have Sarah Rankhorn. Easily one of the top pass catchers in all of NAIA and really just the country in general. Rankhorn racked up 103 receptions on 1,191 yards and 19 touchdowns as a sophomore in 2025, making her an all-PMC wide receiver. Her combination of size, athleticism, and catch radius was highly valuable to this offense as a whole, and this team was just noticeably better when she was on the field. A lot of the reason why she was so lethal and just so valuable for this Milligan squad was just her ability as a red zone threat. Her and Bridget Kaiser always seemed to be on the same page, but even if they weren't, then leave it to Sarah Rankhorn to make a tough grab for the score. I'm fairly sure that Rankhorn will be missing this season due to injury, and if that is the case, then we over here at Playmakers Corner wish Sarah a speedy recovery. Next up now, we have another big loss on the opposite side of the ball. I'm talking about Tatiana Buno. An emerging star and leader for this Milligan defense, Buno was a big-time playmaker that will be dearly missed. She provided some very consistent flag pulling for their defensive front, being a lethal rusher and linebacker that made some clutch plays all season long. Buno will be at Nevada State for the 2026 season, and she will not be easy to replace. Next up now, we have Yasmin Lott. Yasmin started at center for the Buffaloes as a freshman in 2025, and she will be moving on to Weber International for the 2026 season. Lott is a great playmaker with the ball in her hands and delivered some very consistent snaps in a no-huddle offense, which is not easy to do. It will be interesting to see what Coach Witten does to replace her for this upcoming season. And lastly here, for the key departures that we're going to be highlighting, we have Sophia Ortiz. Another big piece of the Milligan defense in 2025, Ortiz will be one of the starting linebackers over at Midland in the 2026 season. Ortiz was a leader for the defense in the flagpole department, and Coach Witten will need to work to replace her in Tatiana Buno. Let's go ahead now and talk about some key returning players from the 2025 season now. Let's go ahead and start it off here with the junior quarterback Bridget Kaiser. With 71 touchdowns and 13 interceptions in the regular season in 2025, the junior southpaw is walking into 2026 comfortably as one of the best QBs in NAIA and an easy preseason MVP candidate. Her jump in production from her freshman to her sophomore season is quite astounding, to be honest, and it caught a lot of squads off guard with how efficiently she was slinging the rock. Kaiser is an excellent fit as the sheriff of this Milligan offense with her IQ of the game and just her overall ability to build drives all game long. She did see a bit of a dip in efficiency when she got to the NAIA tournament, throwing 10 touchdowns to 9 interceptions there. But if you were watching, you could see how much of a competitor she is and just how talented she is with the ball in her hands. Another 70-plus touchdown season is definitely on the horizon for Kaiser in 2026. Next up here for key returning players for Milligan in the 2026 season, we have sophomore wide receiver and defensive back Krista Quinn. The leading receiver for Milligan in 2025 and the PMC Freshman of the Year, this playmaker put up over 100 receptions, nearly 1,200 yards, 24 touchdowns, and then 3 more rushing touchdowns on offense. And then on defense, Quinn was highly productive as well, with 47 flag pulls and 6 interceptions on that side of the ball in the regular season. Quinn is yet another MVP candidate on this squad, making Milligan one of maybe 2 or 3 programs that have multiple preseason MVP candidates on their roster. Quinn was a highly decorated high school flag player and just kept building on that momentum, putting up one of the best freshman seasons we have ever seen as a podcast. The connection between her and Bridget Kaiser might be the most efficient in the country, and it is scary to think what kind of numbers we're going to see from these two in 2026. Her defensive prowess will be even more important with the departures of Sophia Ortiz and Tatiana Buno. And then you throw in the fact that Milligan won't have Sarah Rankhorn this year either, and now, suddenly, Krista Quinn looks like she would potentially be the number 1 overall pick in a flag football fantasy football draft. Next up here, we have yet another veteran of this system with Coach Ryan Witten. I'm of course talking about Ashton Weirley. The utility playmaker for the Buffaloes for the past 2 seasons will be returning for her 3rd season under Coach Ryan Witten. And Weirley may be the most familiar with the system than any other player on the roster outside of Bridget Kaiser. She is also due to be firmly in place to compete for Utility Player of the Year this season with a 1,000 receiving yard season on the horizon. She will benefit from Sarah Rankhorn's absence from a production standpoint with her familiarity with Coach Witten's offensive system. And that's without even bringing up her production on defense, as she racked up 70 flag pulls and 6 interceptions on that side of the ball in the regular season. Weirley is a dog and a key veteran competitor for this Milligan squad, and look out for a big season from her in 2026. Looking on the defensive side of the ball here now, we have a key returning playmaker in Chloe Jackson. One of the few seniors on this roster, Jackson was a huge presence on defense for Milligan last season. With over 50 flag pulls and 8 sacks, Jackson is going to be vital for this defensive front to thrive after they lost some key pieces in the middle to the transfer portal. She didn't stop in the postseason either with 14 flag pulls and leading the team with 3 sacks there. Chloe Jackson should be on our watch list for the All-PMC rusher list, no problem. Next now we have Sakaya Newell. This junior defensive back was a huge piece for this lethal Milligan secondary with over 50 flag pulls and 4 interceptions as a sophomore. The Buffaloes were great at forcing turnovers with their size and speed on the outside at defensive back and safety, and we can thank Sakaya Newell for being a massive part of that. She will be a big-time player to watch in 2026. Next year we have Abby Lynn Laprice. Laprice was out for most, if not all, of 2025, but she was a big contributor on both sides of the ball in 2024 for the Buffaloes, and she'll be back here in 2026. She could slide into the starting receiving core, as well as be a starting linebacker or defensive back here this coming season. The last player I'm going to be highlighting here for key returning players is going to be Caitlin Quinn. Sister of Krista, Caitlin has been a part of Coach Witten's system for 2 years now and is coming into her redshirt junior season as a potential starting wide receiver. She saw plenty of playing time in 2025 at the receiving spot, and I expect much of the same here for her in 2026. Now, folks, we are going to go ahead and move into the newcomers for the Milligan squad in 2026. These are all going to be incoming freshmen. And I'm sorry to any players that I did not highlight in this section here. I'm really just going to be talking about the players that I was able to gather the most information on. But let's go ahead and start it off here with Parker Bridges. A dynamic playmaker out of Georgia, Bridges played a lot of QB in high school, but she showed many flashes of excellent flag evasion and straightaway speed at that position. She also played a lot of outside linebacker, and her film shows some excellent range and instincts. She is baiting QBs into bad throws left and right, and she is relentless in pursuit of a flagpole. This is a big-time get for the Buffaloes. Next now we have Jasmine McDowell. Speaking of big-time recruits, here we have an incoming freshman utility/outside linebacker, Jasmine McDowell. She was an absolute force in high school at Lithia Springs in Georgia, putting up 1,160 yards and 16 rushing touchdowns on 11 yards per carry her senior year, while also adding 44 receptions for 520 yards and 8 more touchdowns receiving. McDowell goes into almost unreachable speeds with the ball in her hands in the open field, and is almost certainly going to be in the running for that starting utility role on offense sooner rather than later. It is a QB's dream to have a check down option that can go out and get yards the way Jasmine can. And just look at Janasia Wilson over at Kaiser. That is the kind of playmaker that Milligan has for themselves in Jasmine McDowell. Throw in the fact that she had 117 pulls on defense as a senior as well, and you have yourself a potential superstar in the making that will definitely make an impact right away. The next newcomer I'm going to be highlighting here will be Anaya Hall Friday. A two-way star in high school out of Georgia, Anaya made her biggest impact on defense with 120 flagpoles and 8 interceptions in her junior year of high school. She'll be joining Coach Witten and company as a potential outside linebacker and utility option. Next here we have Lily Rumroll. Let's keep things rolling with yet another elite recruit that Coach Witten has acquired in safety/wide receiver Lily Rumroll. Rumroll is a standout flag football star in the state of North Carolina, becoming the first athlete in North Carolina history to sign a letter of intent to play college flag football. Her film is littered with her making insane catches in the red zone with full extension, over defenders, over the shoulder. She truly does everything you need from a wide receiver. She will almost certainly slide into that starting receiving core right away and potentially take on that Sarah Rankhorn role as the red zone/big play threat. I think she would fit perfectly in that role with her soft hands and smooth route running. Next year we have Danny Shropshire, yet another freshman wide receiver and defensive back that could potentially make a big impact for the Buffaloes. She is an outside deep threat at wide receiver with no problem getting open or making a tough grab on deep throws. She is third all-time in receiving at her high school by the time she graduated. Shropshire is bringing some big playability to this Milligan offense and defense. And lastly here, the player I'm going to be highlighting to finish off the newcomers is going to be Courtney Cummings. Coming out of Lakewood, California, Courtney was an absolutely electric player in high school. She racked up 77 receptions for 1,255 yards and 26 receiving touchdowns. And then on defense, she had 27 flagpoles and 17 interceptions. That kind of production is borderline unfathomable. Nearly as many interceptions as flagpoles shows to me that you could literally not throw in her direction whatsoever. Combine that with her 26 receiving touchdowns, and we have ourselves a very exciting prospect for the Buffaloes. Cummings should fit in very nicely here for Milligan, potentially right away. Let's go ahead now and just look at my overall thoughts of the Milligan Buffaloes ahead of the 2026 season. There is just honestly so much to like about this Milligan squad. They return a PMC MVP finalist in Bridget Kaiser and the PMC Freshman of the Year from 2025 in Krista Quinn, and then they have a ton of potential star recruits joining the mix as well. Coach Witten has used freshmen a ton in the past to great success, and I expect much of the same here in 2026, considering how sweet this freshman class is. Losing Sarah Rankhorn for the season is huge, and not to mention Tatiana Buno and Sophia Ortiz as well, but I trust Coach Witten to be able to configure this roster in a way that they can make up for the loss of Rankhorn, Ortiz, Buno, and those players. Newcomers like Anaya Hall Friday, Jasmine McDowell, Lily Rumroll, Parker Bridges, Courtney Cummings, these are players that are going to make a massive impact all season long for the Buffaloes on either side of the ball and keep Milligan around the top of the country rankings-wise. I like their schedule too with how many brand new programs they have to face. This will be a top 5 program all year in my opinion, and they should absolutely be in contention for the NAIA Flag Football National Championship in 2026. Let's go ahead and keep things rolling now with a brand new program that is going to be joining us here in 2026. Coming out of Pennsylvania, we got the PennWest California Vulcans. They are going to be an independent Division II program here in 2026. And the Vulcans will be led by head coach Noah Mitchell. Coach Mitchell has quite the pedigree as a college athlete for the Vulcans. He was a 4-year starter for the boys tackle football team at quarterback and holds just about every passing record at the school to this point. He also most recently was a receivers coach for the Vulcans, having a big hand in their explosive offensive attack that saw the team finish the year inside the top 15 schools in the country. This is one of the more exciting coaching hires in the entire country because you have a guy who has a great resume and reputation at the school already, both as a coach, as a player, very recently too. Mitchell will no doubt make this offense an absolute machine, and his experience at QB puts him in a very unique spot to make sure the most important position in the sport is not going to be a worry for this team. Great hire here for the Vulcans. The Vulcans don't currently have their schedule posted here for the 2026 season, but they will be independent, and I am assuming they will be playing some of these other Pennsylvania schools and maybe a couple New York teams mixed in as well. Checking out their roster, I wasn't really able to gather much information on the players currently listed on their roster, but the one player I was able to gather the most info on is going to be Adriana Glaze. Adriana is a big-time recruit for the Vulcans. Standing around 5'7" with smooth agility and game-breaking speed, she would be walking into 2026 as the number one receiver and defensive back for this squad. Adriana has an excellent ability to make yards after the catch happen with one of the smoothest spin moves in the game that will confuse any defender in front of her. Throw in the fact that she is practically unguardable in man defense with her arsenal of quick releases and smooth head fakes, and you have yourself a potential superstar in the making. I already know Coach Mitchell is going to draw up some great stuff to take advantage of Glaze's awesome playmaking ability, and she can play some defensive back too with exceptional hands and instincts. And finally here, I'm just going to share my final thoughts of the PennWest California Vulcans ahead of their first season as a program. While I don't really have much to go off of here ahead of the 2026 season here for this program, what I will say is that I am very excited just for their overall potential as they have a great head coach and a potential star in the making in Adriana Glaze to build off of for the future. Mitchell just needs his QB for the future, and she could definitely be on the roster right now to really get this thing rolling. You already have your number one receiver in Adriana Glaze to feed and scheme around, so now it is just about filling in the rest of the roster with more depth and more playmakers. They've done a great job recruiting local talent so far, but it would be cool to see if they expanded out to some of the other local states to really fill out this roster in the future. Depth is going to be this team's biggest hurdle here in the early couple of seasons, so it will be interesting to see what they have going on. Right now, they only have 7 players currently on the roster, so that's another thing to keep your eye on. But I have to say that I am very excited here for PennWest California's future. Staying on the East Coast here, let's go ahead and talk about Elmira College out of Elmira, New York. This is going to be Elmira's first official season, and they will be a member of the Empire 8 Conference. The Soaring Eagles coaching staff is led by head coach Savannah Terry, who has also served as head coach of the volleyball team at Elmira. Not much is known about Coach Terry's background with football or flag football, and the rest of her staff didn't have anything available about their football careers either, but from what I could gather here for this coaching staff, it sounds like they are all mixed in with different sports at the college, ranging from volleyball to basketball. So I guess we can count on seeing some multi-sport athletes on this squad based on that information. They played club flag football last year for a few games with a 56-6 win in their first game, so that is definitely encouraging here to say the least. Looking at their schedule, they don't currently have a schedule listed for 2026, but they will be competing in the Empire 8 Conference against schools like SUNY Geneseo, sorry if I mispronounced that there, I'm sure I butchered that, who they beat 56-6 last year, by the way. We also have SUNY Brockport, Hartwick College, and then Russell Sage College. And this is honestly a very, very winnable conference here for the Soaring Eagles. Checking out the roster, first off here we have Kylie Hook, a returning player who is also a member of Elmira's women's basketball team. She should be playing a big part of this squad again in 2026. And I also want to say really quick, I'm really only going to be talking about players that I was able to gather the most information on, so apologies to any players that I do not mention here. But moving on now, we have Natalie Mussolino, another returning player and member of the basketball team. Mussolino should be in contention for that starting center spot this season. Next up, we have Natasha Reynolds, Reynolds is returning for her second season and will be competing for one of the starting linebacker spots. She also competes for the cheer team at Elmira. Next up now, we have a potential star in the making. I'm talking about Mariana Dixon. Dixon is already a big name in the Empire 8 Conference as a member of the women's college basketball team at Elmira. She is a star for them on the women's basketball team, so I expect much of the same here on the flag football field. Definitely keep an eye out for her. She is currently listed at wide receiver and defensive back. And last but not least, for returning players from their club season from last season, we have Hannah Smith. Smith is returning for her second season as starting QB for Elmira. She is a tall lefty pocket passer with some pretty nice touch on her ball. She could very well light things up this season in this Empire 8 Conference. Now let's look at the newcomers. I was really only able to gather information on one of the freshmen that are currently listed on the roster. Let's go ahead and talk about it. We have Nyla Capon, an incoming QB prospect that will be competing with Hannah Smith for that starting job. Capon is a right-handed pocket passer that is not afraid to air the ball downfield. She will also be competing on the women's wrestling team for the Soaring Eagles. Now I'm just going to share my final thoughts here for Elmira. The Soaring Eagles are in prime position to take the Empire 8 crown and not give it back for a while. They've got a strong core of multi-sport athletes and local talent to get this team rolling in their first official season. And they even have a couple of options to try quarterback, which is something not every team can say. Watching their film from their 56-6 win last year, it looks like Coach Terry and her staff favor using two blockers lined up with their QB to get ready to block or catch a check down. This is a scheme we see a lot with new college programs and high school programs, but it doesn't usually translate to much success at the college level. Spreading the field out with more receivers and getting that ball out quick is what the top teams in this game tend to lean towards, so it'll be interesting to see if Elmira experiments with that at all this season. Either way, this is going to be a strong team from a culture and just an overall team chemistry standpoint, with 4 total coaches on the staff to help out as well. Overall, I am very excited to see what the Soaring Eagles accomplish in their first official season. That will do it here in this episode of our 2026 Women's Flag Football Preview Series. I wish the best of luck to all 3 of these programs ahead of the 2026 season, and I can't wait to cover some of these games starting in February. We got more and more episodes coming out non-stop for you guys, so make sure to check those out and keep up with the #1 source for women's flag football coverage. This is Gino with the Playmakers Corner podcast, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.